is ended. The Atari 8-bit podcast.
They didn't think personal computers on everyone's desk was the way to go because everything worked fine the way it was, with the mainframe handling all the applications, and that was it.
This is Antic, the Atari 8-bit podcast. I'm Kevin Savitz. Elizabeth MacRae published one program for the Atari 8-bit computers, Mankala, which was published by Atari Program Exchange. It first appeared in the fall 1982 APX catalog, where it won second prize in the entertainment category. Here's its entry in that catalog. Mankala by Elizabeth Chase MacRae, recommended for ages 8 and up, written in machine language. The Stone Age has met the computer age. Mankala, an ancient African game traditionally played with stones on the ground or on a hand-carved board, is now available on your Atari home computer. But the computerized Mankala remains faithful to the original game's rules and format. Each player owns 6 small playing bins and 1 large home bin, which are arranged as 2 parallel sets. Players take turns picking up all the stones in one of their playing bins and dropping 1 stone in each bin in a counterclockwise direction. They move the stones by using a joystick controller to position their yellow marker over a bin and then pressing the red joystick button. Mankala automatically picks up all the stones and drops them in the other bins. Each stone dropped into a home bin remains there permanently, and whenever the last stone in a turn lands in the player's home bin, the player takes another turn. The game ends when one player empties all the playing bins in his set. The holder of more stones is the winner. Players can start with between 3 and 8 stones per bin. 2 players can compete against each other, or 1 player can challenge the computer on different levels. All it takes is 1 or 2 rounds to appreciate the clever simplicity and enduring appeal of Mankala. The author invites written questions and comments. Review comments. Novices will find Mankala easy to learn, while experienced players will still find the game challenging. The user manual is very good. Requires 1 Atari joystick controller per player. Order information. It was available on cassette and diskette. Either way, it required 16K of RAM and cost $22.95. It was APX catalog number 20156. This interview took place on September 13th, 2016.
I got interested in computers very early. In about 1961, when I was in college, I took a computer science course. At that time, it was the only undergraduate computer science course issued. It was Computer Science 101, and that was all there was.
What school was this?
This was Harvard,
okay.
Harvard University. It was the only course they had. We learned to program the UNIVAC 1, which was a computer of, you may know, of vacuum tubes. In a great big room. We did punch card programming, and we learned sorting techniques and so forth. There were no personal computers at that time. I mean, there were, I think, 2 UNIVAC 1s and some sorting machines and some punch card machines, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I went on. I majored in mathematics. I went on for a graduate degree in economics. Not much computers there. I think there were some mainframes being developed. Wasn't particularly interested in any of that. In 1969, I taught at the University of Maryland. I was a professor there, assistant professor there.
What did you teach?
I taught economics.
Okay.
Again, they had mainframe computers, but I don't remember using them much, if at all. I think they were programmed still with punch cards. Put your program together in punch cards, submit it to the IT department, and they run them through and print your results back out and give you a big printout package of stuff. But I really wasn't particularly interested. In late 1970s, I think, maybe 1980s, Atari and some others came out with game computers, personal home computers. Nothing like what we have now, but they were fun. I got one. I think my husband maybe bought it for me. I'm not quite sure why. And I was programming it, and I discovered they had this APX program at Atari for people to write their own programs. I thought, well, that would be, why not try doing that? So I did. It was fun. I learned how to use, wrote it in compiler language, partly in assembler, because I had artificial intelligence which had to run really fast, and assembler was much faster than the compiled version. And then you program the visual effects separately, and it runs on a separate chip. It was really intriguing. And that was, I enjoyed that, and Atari accepted it. One of the interesting things I remember when I went to meet with the reviewers so they could ask questions about the program, some of the reviewers were very strongly suggesting that I should make this a text-based program. It was entirely visual, no text at all, just pictures and icons and so forth. And they thought this was not good. They needed some text, which would tell you where you were in the program and how many points you already accumulated and so on and so forth. And I managed to fend them off. But it was interesting that the idea of having a computer which was visually oriented was certainly not in their mindset.
That's interesting.
Apple had not really come on the Macintosh had not come on the market at that point. Macintosh was what?
1984.
Yeah, this was before Macintosh and the idea of a GUI interface. This was all, computers were text-based. You put text in and you've got text out.
Right.
So the idea of having something with nothing in the way of text at all just seemed to rub them the wrong way. But I prevailed, so we didn't have any text in it. And that was sort of it. It sold. Adults seemed to like it. I showed it to lots of our friends and so forth. Adults seemed to like it. Younger people, children and so forth, less so. It was not violent enough. We had moving things, all sorts of things moving around and dropping stones here and there. Had music, had sound effects, but it just wasn't a first-person shooter game at all. So, but in any case, adults liked it, and what I discovered is that I formed a company, a small business company, to market it independently, which really was not very successful. It takes more than one person to do a video game. Certainly, even back then, it was one person by themselves with a full-time job in the background. Was just not going to work there. That was
Aldebaran?
Yes, Aldebaran was the name of the company. And it made a tiny bit of profit in some years. And we used the company, my husband and I used the company later on for economic research, consulting services, and things like that. We got out of the programming business. We tried to make a hypertext-like program for the legal profession and marketed it several different places. But that was before the internet and HTML came on, and it was very much like internet, but with only me doing it. You can't keep up with those other guys.
What platform was that for, your hypertext program?
I don't remember.
Probably not the Atari.
No, it was not the Atari, and it may have been the Macintosh. I don't remember. Oh, we did a version of Mankala also for the Texas Instruments 99.
Oh, really?
Which is very interesting. And we presented it to them. They accepted it. They paid us our advance royalties. A week before, they decided they weren't going to do home computers anymore. So we lucked out on that one. That was very nice.
Nice. Were you able to port the Atari version, or was this a writing from scratch?
It was writing from scratch. The basic structure of the program and the logic and so forth was all the same, but the programming all had to be rewritten. The Texas Instrument 99 was a really awkward machine. I'm not surprised they dropped it. It's not expandable. I don't remember if you remember it. It had a basic module, and then if you wanted more memory or more anything, you had to add on these great big boxes on separate external hard drives and external whatever else. It was just an awkward construction, awkward design for whatever it was. And we sort of dropped the computer stuff. I was a senior official at the Department of Energy at the time. My husband was with the Treasury Department. So we sort of dropped that and did research in economics and things like that. And that was about it. We didn't do any more programming of applications after that.
Yeah, I noticed that Mankala was the only Atari game that you came out with, or any program at all. So how and why did you learn assembly language?
I learned assembly language because on the Atari, the compiled version, whatever compiler I was using, wasn't working fast enough to do the artificial intelligence that I was trying to do. So I had to revert to the assembly language.
And why Mankala? Was that a game that had a particular interest to you?
I don't even remember why I chose Mankala. It was intriguing. I had come across the game as a board game. I don't remember why I decided to do it.
Well,
I have no idea.
Okay. Well, I played it this morning, and you're right. I mean, there's virtually no text in the game, which was kind of refreshing. It says Mankala at the beginning, and then it drops you in, and you can kind of keep score by telling how many stones are on the screen, and that's all you really need. And it was very nice. And
that was the argument I made to the reviewers, that you can count for yourself. I mean, if there's a board game, the board game doesn't have little text images popping up. So why should this? And also, how do you play it? How do you play it? I have no idea how you'd play it nowadays.
Oh, right. I mean, I played it on my. I have a real Atari here, but I played it on an emulator on my Mac. And there's an Atari emulator, so I just loaded it right
neat.
up. Yeah. So it's super easy to play.
I don't even have the source code anymore. That's interesting. I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah. So yeah, the game is out there, but not the source code, which is what I was going to ask you about. People have archived the game. Do you happen to have the manual? The manual has not been scanned. No one has it.
I might have. I'm in the process of downsizing because we're going to move from our larger house to a smaller house. And I'm sure there are boxes out there which have things on them that say Mankala. I'll look for it.
If you find it, I would appreciate it.
Okay,
borrowing that from you.
Okay. Well, the only games I've played since then have been Age of Empires, which I can't play anymore because the computer that it worked on, Macintosh, doesn't work anymore.
Oh.
So I can't play that. It's disappointing. And Baldur's Gate was another one I like.
Nice. So you said your self-published version did not sell very well. How did the APX version do?
It made money, but I didn't quit my day job. It was fun. It was fun to have royalties, but it wasn't wildly successful.
What do you do today?
Right now, I'm retired. I was a senior executive with the Immigration Service until 2002. Then my husband and I moved to Singapore for 6 years. We taught at the university in Singapore, the Singapore Management University. I taught economics, and my husband was in the law department.
Very nice. So I'm curious, you said you met with the APX people. That's pretty unusual. Most everyone I've talked to they did mail correspondence or phone calls. So meeting in person is kind of unusual. Can you tell me more about that, why it happened that way, and anything about those meetings?
I cannot remember. But the only thing I distinctly remember is being in a meeting where I was showing something to somebody, and I believe it was Atari. It was well before Texas Instruments. I was showing someone at Atari, and they were saying, well, you really should have a text. They really wanted a text to show how many stones were there and what you were doing and so forth. And I certainly thought it was Atari. The only people I would have talked to would be the people at Texas Instruments in Lubbock, Texas. And that was, I don't think that was where it was. But I don't remember.
Okay. Excellent. Well, it's a fun game, and it plays hard, and it's good job. Yeah,
Okay.
Very cool. So, what haven't I asked you about the Atari days that I should have?
I liked the Atari as a game machine, and this is, of course, before the IBM PCs came in and sort of took over the market. Mm-hmm. They were fun, and they were sort of an interesting way of getting people to use computers. Initially, they were just games, and the trend was then to move them into doing more on a small thing. When I took over my job at the Department of Energy, I was in charge of IT. It wasn't called that; it's called something else at that time. And we had mainframes, and we had a couple of mini computers, but they were all programmed by the Special Computer Corps, and people would submit their ideas or their programs to the computer people, who would then get around to doing it very slowly. And I tried to get the idea that we should be trying personal computers at that time. This was probably mid-1980s. I was trying to get the whole department to use personal computers. Right now they're using monitors, keyboards and monitors, which then connected to a long cable to the mainframe. Mm-hmm. So the mainframe was doing all the computing, and you're just sitting there in front of a monitor and a keyboard at your desk. The idea was rejected. I couldn't get it through at that time. My boss agreed to buy 2 personal computers, one for his desk and one for his boss's desk, which they never used. But that was it. They didn't want to, I didn't think personal computers on everyone's desk was the way to go, because everything worked fine the way it was, with the mainframe handling all the applications, and that was it. And of course, people were using electric typewriters and didn't have to use a mainframe at all. Right. And it took several more years before we even got personal computers at all.
True enough. Well, great. I think I have what I need. Thank you so much.
Okay, and I will look for the Mankala manual. It may well be around here somewhere. Okay. And I'll see what I can find.
Great. If you enjoy these interviews and would like to contribute something, I encourage you instead to donate to one of our favorite organizations, the Internet Archive, at archive.org. The Internet Archive is a nonprofit digital library with the stated mission of universal access to all knowledge. They've done incredible things to preserve computer history, including hosting thousands of programs in an in-browser Atari emulator, creating the Wayback Machine, and offering full-page scans of countless Atari computer books and magazines. Make your tax-deductible contribution at archive.org/donate.